But you know, I've watched a couple of your shows and noticing the emphasis on turning point. Where were the turning points? And a different type of turning point showed up for me when I paused listening to your podcast and saying, what kind of a turning point actually made a real difference? And there are two little stories I'd like to tell you.
Absolutely.
And one is when I was 14 and I was in boarding school. And one of the girls in my class brought in a photograph that her mother had taken of the sky. And in the cloud formation, a dead obvious statue of the Madonna and Child was in the sky. I mean, it was like, you know, the way sometimes you look at clouds and you go, oh yeah, it could be this, it could be that. I mean, this could only be one thing. We were looking at a statue in the sky in a photograph. She took the photograph in one of these Catholic shrines. Now, a sacred shrine where Mary appears, or where, you know, whoever appears, whatever being or light or savior or deity appears. For me, it's usually about a vortex that's in the planet. There's some synchronicity there in the earth that allows a sacredness to happen above. And we have built pyramids on top of these sacred sites and stone circles, and along came religions, and we've built mosques and synagogues and churches on top of these sacred sites, you know? And this sacred site of where Mary appeared, I guess over 100 years ago now, is where her mom was. And she was out, you know, visiting these places, and whoops, her camera moved up to the sky and she took a photograph. So the daughter had this, and I was so excited and I didn't understand why. That was the first big, what's going on? What's going on? Some crack happened there at 14 that it took me 30 years, 40 years to understand. Ooh. You could just add decades, you know, after a certain time, it's like, no, I'm not adding 3 years, I'm adding chunks of 10, you know. So, and what happened for me was that I knew this is really important for me. This is amazing. I ran out of class. I disturbed another class where there was a teacher who did photography after hours with students. Sir, is this a real photograph? Is this photographic paper? Is this an actual photograph? And he goes, oh, okay. Sorry, class. Okay, what's going on here? I was like jumping out of my skin. And I was like, what is wrong with me? And it was a real photograph. And one of the teachers pulled me aside and said, why don't you calm down? What's wrong with you? For half this day, you're like, and we've said it in the staff room, you're just jumping out of your skin. And I said, I don't know. I don't know why. It'll pass. It'll pass. I don't know why. And what was happening was that a deeper movement was happening and my mind was watching it. My mind had no control. Some other process was using my voice, using my mind, using my body, using my intellect. And my mind was going, what the beep? You know, like, what's this? So I was watching my personality. I'm like, okay, what is that? What is that? That there's something else inside. I'm not going crazy. What is it? That was a significant turning point, because then I knew there was a crack someplace inside me to something that was more pure, wasn't afraid, was authentic, didn't give a crap how it landed with anybody else, wasn't aware of any consequences, was full of joy, was bursting to be set free. And I don't remember seeing it again till I was 35 maybe. And I was at a retreat, and this time my life was about spirituality. I was at a retreat in Spain. Was it in Spain? It was in Spain, in Granada. And at the time I was working with a master whom I had never physically seen, but it was there was a school set up by him, and his disciples would come and give retreats. And it's a very pure school. And his photograph was there, and we were in a deep meditation, and I saw a house, a stone-washed house with a red brick archway. And I went up to the door, and knocked at the door and stood back. And the master opened the door. And he said to me, you come in, and my husband was beside me. You stay there. And I turned to my husband and said, okay, I'll see you after a weekend. I'll see you. This is all in a vision now. I'll see you soon, maybe after the weekend. And I walked towards the door and he said, you don't get it. You can come in here, but you have to leave him behind. I'm like, for a while. Like, there's no reason I should leave my marriage. I leave for a while. And he said, you don't get it. You leave him and everything and come alone, or you stay outside. I went, shoot. Okay. I've got to do this, I said to my husband. And I walked in. And the vision stopped and my body went into shock, complete and total shock. And looking back, I think the shock and the grief and the recognition that my life was going to go absolutely upside down and inside out all came together and was processed way too quickly for my system. And my body became completely stiff, like rigor mortis, and I started hyperventilating. It broke up the whole room. They took me out to the sun. Nothing would stop this. And they were like trying to, 3 or 4 people trying to open up my arms, and it would spring back again. And I wasn't doing anything. I was like in the shock and in the horror of trying to stay breathing and trying to calm my breath. And one woman got a bucket of water. She threw it over my head and it broke. It snapped my nervous system out of the traumatic response. And, oh, thank you. Came out of me. I thought, okay, the best thing, bucket of water. Okay, all right, I'm here again. And then the tears started and I cried and cried and cried and cried. And I knew when I came home, babe, we're together for 23 years. It's done. Something has broken inside me. I'm done. So it took us a few months to split up and, a spiritual decoupling and all the rest of it. It's like, I'm done. It's all over. I have to walk this path. Can't I come with you? No, then it won't happen. And this is, I've no option here. My family were saying, choose to stay with your husband. God doesn't split up marriages. I'm not splitting it up. God isn't splitting it up. My body has to walk in this direction. The decision has already been made in a vision. This is what's happening. I'm just going to have to swallow it and hope to heaven that it's the right thing. I have no clue, but it's what's happening anyway. And that was the second scenario of, all right, my mind is going, holy crap. And something is already streets ahead. And my mind is trying to process the shock, the trauma, way behind, trying to catch up. They were the 2 turning points of moments of recognition of what it feels like to have pure consciousness, pure awareness, navigating everything. And what everything, as in what I say, what I do, what I think, my actions, every movement, the recognition that that's actually what's doing all of this.